Right now, if you look at what's going on in the state of New York, I don't think there's any question that we're in a fiscal emergency. I have tried to talk about this every place I go. I've tried to focus on what our priorities should be, how New York State needs to change. We need to have a real, substantive, tough dialogue on some of the choices that New York State needs to make. Things that haven't been done in the past, or things that have been done in the past but haven't been done well. Today, as part of a package that I believe we need to act on, I introduced legislation to call for a wage freeze of all public sector employees at all levels of government in the state of New York for 1 year. I think it's very important to explain why I've asked that this be done and why I believe it to be important. The taxpayers in the state are hanging on by a thread. They have had it. They can't pay anymore. Government is not being responsive. Government is not properly listening. And government has failed to take steps that will relieve the burden of our constituents and the taxpayers all across the state of New York. I am not by any stretch trying to pick on public employees. I think we have to look and see what's going on in the private sector, how the public sector needs to act differently. And this is one piece of a very large puzzle that has to be part of us restoring the state to its greatness and to restoring some fiscal sanity in terms of what we're doing. This bill would in essence save the state of New York $435 million, Suffolk County, where I live, $65 million, Nassau County, $30 million, the MTA, $100 million, and the city of New York, upwards of $1 billion. I'm not even talking about individual school districts when I'm referencing those numbers. It's over $2 billion statewide. It's a very important message. It's a really strong message that we are listening and that we're changing the way we're doing things. And it starts to turn the corner along with things like massive regulatory overhaul, restructuring of state agencies, legitimate, fair, and honest economic development for the people who actually create jobs. And I believe it's something that we need to do right now. And the dialogue is changing. As we move into the Democrat and the Republican conventions for this year's elections, all of a sudden we hear people talking a lot more about this idea. Today I've introduced a bill because I think it's an important step forward, and I'm going to work very hard with my colleagues to do the right thing by all people. I want people who work in the public sector to be fairly treated, to be fairly paid, and to get the respect that they deserve. At this juncture, we need everybody's help, and one of the ways we should be able to do that is by asking for some sacrifice by the people in the public sector and try and find ways for the people in the private sector who actually create wealth and create jobs to make their lives easier so we can all benefit.